Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining our session this evening, our VO and Lincolnshire FA session we're hosting. We're going to give it another minute just to let any late entries come in, and then we'll get going. But thank you all very much for joining our session tonight. Just give it 10 more seconds. There's a couple coming in now. Right, I think we'll get going. Thanks everyone for joining. We're very happy to be hosting this session in collaboration with Lincolnshire FA, and I'm very proud to be joined by a fantastic panel, starting with Jake Dew, who's a colleague of mine at VO. He'll be managing our chat box on the right-hand side of the screen. So if you have any questions throughout our discussion or our session, please feel free to use that chat box and chuck anything in that you'd like to pitch to our panel. And I'm also very proud to be joined by both Calum and Zack from Lincoln City and Lincoln United, respectively, to give you their insights and advice around video use in football. Calum, I'll come to you first. Do you mind just giving a quick intro into your role in football and how you've arrived where you are today?
Yeah, sure. Welcome, everybody. It's just so my role is head of academy at Lincoln City. So obviously we have a program that goes from pre-academy all the way through to scholars under 18, and obviously providing a pathway that ideally supplies players for our first team in an ideal world. Pathway into it is probably from a coaching background is head of coaching. So I was previously head of coaching at Lincoln City, and then a lot of coaching experience at various clubs, from Bristol Rovers, Sheffield Wednesday, Sheffield United, been in the women's game, been across in America. So years of experience to get to the point where I am today, but very happy, very privileged to be in this position, but very aware of the responsibilities that come with it. And obviously work quite closely with Zack across the County FA and also Lincoln United. So good relationships there too.
Fantastic. Thanks, Calum. Great to have you on board this evening. And Zack, do you mind just giving a similar intro to where you are?
Yeah, no problem. Evening, everyone. So, yeah, I'm Zack. I'm sort of here with a bit of, with sort of two hats on, really. So, I'm the media marketing and events lead at Lincolnshire FA. Been there for about 2.5 years now. So, previously, my experience has sort of been started off in sort of like the leisure and entertainment industry as a PR specialist, and then went over to a place in Sheffield as a PR specialist for a sort of a media agency before being fortunate enough to land my role at Lincolnshire FA. About this time last year, I was asked by the guys at Lincoln United to sort of come on board and revamp their media approach, which I'm very fortunate to be able to do in a volunteer role as well. So yeah, that's just sort of a bit of a quick overview, really. But obviously, been at Lincoln United about a year now, and I think it's fair to say I've had a reasonably successful season with the men's team. So we've obviously got men's seniors teams, women's senior team, and obviously the full junior section, as well as the community side of the club as well. So obviously a massive community club. Operationally, I sit within the men's team. So on match days and throughout the week, I'll be looking after the men's, but also oversee the entire sort of media approach as well. So we've got a separate women's team, and then we've got a couple of volunteers who look after the juniors media as well. So really successful season for the club as a whole, and it's been quite nice to be able to sort of tell that story throughout the year.
Fantastic. Thanks both. And again, I think some really interesting voices to have joining the discussion this evening, offering two sides, I think, of video and how it can sort of really help. Just a very quick agenda for the session. We'll start with just looking as a bit of an intro into how video is used in football, how it's utilised both at the league level, but also throughout the football pyramid. That will sort of lead us quite nicely into some case study discussions. We'll have some questions pitched to both Calum and to Zack, sort of unpacking, I guess, their own experience of the use of video in football, both at the professional level, but also at the voluntary level, and also both on the pitch in terms of player and coach development, but also off the pitch in terms of a social media or marketing strategy for a grassroots club. Throughout those discussions, you're more than welcome to put some questions in using the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. We'll also finish the session with a Q&A where we'll open the floor to allow people to ask any questions that they might have. So, by way of a bit of an introduction, I think we're all very sort of clear on how video is becoming a sort of intrinsic part of football nowadays. I think people are very familiar with Monday Night Football and Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher sort of unpacking a game on their screen and sort of using replays. But what I think is increasingly clear is the use of video from the technology and the science and the data analysis side. So behind the scenes, football today can no longer be played without the use of video and the data to sort of drive those insights, help develop training models, and really, I guess, contextualize performances where it wasn't possible probably previously. And this has obviously been helped by an increase in the use of cameras, the availability of good camera services. I think it's quite interesting. Hopefully this session today will help us sort of translate some of those ideas to the grassroots game more generally. And in that sense, I think what we're realising and seeing in terms of trends is that clubs throughout the football pyramid are using cameras as part of their delivery of football. We can obviously see in this call that Lincoln City have access to plenty of cameras throughout their teams, but also Lincoln United are making use of their own video camera and other means on social media to make sure that they can really improve their marketing strategies, their social media presence, even live streaming some of their facilities. So again, there's lots of different ways that I think video can interact with football. And what I think we want to try and do with this session from an educational perspective is hopefully provide you guys with some insights and some tips to allow you to approach your own football situations next season and beyond, using video to really optimise your performances and hopefully improve both on and off the pitch. I think a good way probably to start and open up the discussion, Calum, if you don't mind coming to you. Would you mind just giving, I guess, an overview of how Lincoln City Academy do use video and sort of from a coaching perspective, how that sort of makes a difference for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you kind of touched on it there, George. Like it's such an important learning tool, and it's a huge benefit to have to be able to sort of watch back performances, whether it's through an individual lens, through a team lens, from a coaching lens. Definitely, when I started my career, we didn't have the access to the footage that we do now, especially within like the younger age groups coming up, which is just as important. So having that kind of ability to gain coverage is the biggest thing for us, that we have so much more coverage across the academy. Obviously, we are lucky to have a few more videos, but the fact that we can get that out without having to sort of employ more staff or get more coverage of personnel to be out on the ground and utilising the videos through our coaching resource is a massive benefit for us. And that's probably one where we'll start. The first one is our player development. So obviously we use it probably in the younger ones more to have interactive conversations with them. So looking back at the games from the weekend, and it's kind of opening up ideas to them around where they, what they see, what can they pick out if there's moments from training that might come out in games that can they sort of bring that to life, like where they've seen that before and how they kind of overcame those challenges, or can they recognise barriers that stop them from doing certain things? So it's just a really good reflective piece for them to use. And then as we sort of progress up the academy, we probably utilise it a little bit more on an individual development basis. And as again, to those older age groups, they become a bit more position specific, locked into areas. Then we can kind of mirror that with their performances. We can link it to, our first team players doing similar performance-related activities or challenges to get through, so we can kind of like tie them in together. Or even at the top of the game, for example, we can tie in performance there to kind of help them with their sort of ongoing development. So I think that's a really good one for us. And obviously the professional development phase, so like more like the 18 stuff, we probably use it quite similar to what first team we use analysis. So we'll very much sort of break down our own footage, our own performances, the sort of the continued development of formations, how we adapt and play, how we would expect the opposition to play, and where we might have had performances in the past that we can tie into that, and how tactically how we can get out the game. So use a lot of different ways within the academy for the players, but really, really, really beneficial for everybody. I think the other way as well, which I'm not sure you mentioned in there, but one that we really utilise a lot is coach development as well. So when I was doing a head of coaching role, we still do it now, but we very much we'll sort of go in, we'll work with a coach, we'll look at what they want as the outcomes of the session, what are they going to go after, and then I think it really brings kind of clarity and reflection in a bit more, probably a bit more relatable for the coach, when it's not just someone sitting there telling them what they did or they didn't do, but the fact that where they can sit and actually watch back their sessions, and they can sit with someone and go, look, what do we think here? This is what I see. This is what you see. And I think it's just been a really big help for us in terms of supporting coach development too. So that's the other element, I think. So player development, a big one, coach development, a big one. And then for an academy purpose, we do use it like in and around recruitment in various ways as well. But as a third way, but yeah, those would be the ways that we utilize it. But yeah, really good asset for us. It's been a massive benefit for the players and for the academy.
Completely. And I think adding just that layer of objectivity to, I guess, lots of the discussions that you have really helps. I mean, it obviously allows the players themselves to, I guess, engage with their own coaching. And I think you mentioned you use it alongside in training as well as match days, so it's sort of it's a feature used for both.
Oh, so yeah. So we train. We do actually we film every training session. So that's not like a Big Brother thing where we're trying to watch everything. We just want to sort of, it helps with alignment. So it helps to see that we're kind of like, is everything working in a line? Are we kind of on the same, how we kind of follow our coaching sessions in our way? Is it everything on tune with how it progresses from technical activities through to kind of like phases at the end of the session? But it helps with that. And it also helps with just kind of like logistical stuff as well. So when we can sit down as a team and look back at it, we can watch a training session and pick things apart, what might do differently, how we could potentially position that better, what the timings might need to be changed. It's a really helpful tool for that as well. So just sort of managing the environment, I guess. But yeah, that's a really good advantage for us.
No, definitely. And I think, again, it's something that hopefully people who are watching can understand that, again, match days are obviously enormously important to capture and sort of understand and unpack. But equally, you're able to sort of get that footage out, get people filming during training. It's always really good to also sort of, I guess, break down that where possible.
I think also just to tighten it, like we have, I think a lot of people go looking for, especially in coach development, a lot of people go looking for best practice. Like they'll go look for session plans online or things like that. But if you've actually got a video session of a really good example of a session for an age group, you can kind of share that as well. So I know one of your words is share, isn't it? But part of it is sharing. So if there's a session that particularly worked really well that we think this is actually a really good benefit, we can share that amongst the group and say, have a look at this session, have a go at replicating that and see how it works for you. So
definitely,
it's a good tool there.
And I think that's something that's used, across lots of the academies. But again, something that can be very easily sort of shared throughout a club that has 10, 15 teams. If there's a session that ran really well, it's definitely something that can then be rolled out maybe at a younger age group, an older age group, or even translated from a first team setting maybe into a reserve team under 18 setting. So I think that's, really useful, really great insight. Thank you, Calum.
Sure.
Zach, I'll come to you next. And I guess from a Lincoln United perspective and in your role today, how has video sort of interacted with your role? How has it sort of helped you sort of create the platform and the audience that you have done for Lincoln United so far?
Video is basically the primary sort of content that we want to deliver, and it's a massive part of our sort of social media and our total media strategy at the club, not just with the men's or the women's, but the juniors and the sort of community side as well. And I guess the reason for that is because, there's obviously facts and figures that sort of support it. And I think video content gets 12 times more shares than sort of text or image or static based content. So not only do we want to engage with the fans and supporters that Lincoln United have got, albeit we haven't got thousands, but we've certainly got a good core of supporters that are down there every week, or certainly at every home game, and those numbers are growing as well, which is a really positive sign. But we also want to attract new supporters, want to attract new people and new audiences to come down and to watch games and sort of support non-league football, really. Obviously the supporters play a massive part in the journey of the club in terms of bringing money in, but also being that 12th man. And I know it's a little bit of a cliche, but it does make a massive difference. We've seen it at games this year where audience engagement and sort of spectator engagement has made a massive difference to what we see on the pitch. In terms of when we're wanting to share messages, and obviously the messages that we want to share across the season will vary depending on what sort of time of year it is or anything like that. But when we share a message, it's sort of proven that I think it's about 95% of the viewers who view our content will retain that message if they watch it via video compared to if they're reading it via text or via static image as well. So when we want to get messages across, and certainly important messages that engage, that our audience want to see, we have to by all means try and get it through video if we can. And we use it we use video for different varieties of sort of content, really, whether it be match highlights, goals. So one thing we introduced straight away this year was a little piece of content called Magic Moment of the Match, which is supported by our Supporters Trust as well. So we've got a little bit of sponsorship in through that piece of content as well, which naturally, for those who are obviously involved in grassroots football, will know that, well, any sort of football really, I suppose, that sponsorship makes a massive difference to the club and what the club can do, and obviously being able to get in players and grow and all those sort of things really. So magic moment of the match it can be the match winning goal, it can be a fantastic save from our keeper if it's maybe not been a game full of goals. We have had a couple of 0-0s where we've done a fantastic save as magic moment of the match. And obviously that's all filmed on the VO as well, so we'll set that up before every game, so we do not miss a thing. And if we can think of something or see something throughout a game that we know is going to make good content, then we certainly bookmark that, whether that be mentally or make a note on our phone of the minute and go back to that later on. Bench cam always does really well, and we know that these sort of content ideas work because we've done our research into Premier League teams, into EFL teams, and certainly National League, and those above us basically. Our aim when we came into Lincoln United was to deliver, if we could, EFL standard content output. I like to think we're getting somewhere near that, if not pretty much hitting the mark of EFL delivery. So bench cams, it always helps when you've got a management team who reacts quite excitedly on the touchline, as well as certainly when we get a 95th minute winner. So that content always does really well. Goal of the month, goal of the season campaigns naturally do really well. Again, we've managed to get those sponsored as well. So all these different content ideas might seem relatively easy and relatively straightforward, but actually they can make not only a bit of a difference with how our audience and how we grow our online audience sort of and how they engage with us, but also from a financial income as well. It makes a big difference to how we deliver. So we can obviously use video for player focused content, so individual clips sort of spotlighting player performances, whether that be goals or shots or saves or whatever that might be. It can be anything really. And we've utilised that throughout the season. We use video for goal celebration graphics as well, and we made a really conscious decision. A lot of teams use GIFs, we use videos, because social platforms want to keep their audiences on the platform for as long as they possibly can. So naturally, the algorithms within social media, as anyone who sort of works in media or marketing knows, it's you're always trying to chase that perfect algorithm. But social platforms will try and get give a bit of a boost to video content. So we make conscious decisions, even if it's 2, 3, 5, 4, 5 second clips. We make a conscious decision to use video absolutely everywhere we can as well. And that's, like I say, from video highlights to player focused content, storytelling, event coverage, sponsorship sort of coverage as well. We're trying more next year to get our players to go out to our club sponsors. And a real basic example would be if we had a coffee company, or we've got a bar, a gin bar who sponsors the club, taking a couple of players out and getting them to make some cocktails or something, and utilising video and all those sort of utilising that to benefit sponsorship as well. Links Joinery sponsor our match highlights, so naturally every week or every game, maybe sometimes twice a week, they get benefit of brand engagement and brand recognition and visibility from those match highlight packages that we put together and send out within a few days of the games as well. So you can start to see how video makes a massive difference to how we deliver our messaging, engage with our audience. I mean, our TikTok has grown phenomenally this year. For those who sort of don't know, really, TikTok is actually becoming one of the fastest growing search engines in the world. Would you believe it? It's sort of, people are going onto TikTok and doing research on there. It's sort of linked to Wikipedia linked to Wikipedia now as well. So if you search for, a real random example would be a documentary about the Craig twins or something like that. I think I've seen that example before. But not only will it bring you up the Wikipedia page that will be generated with information from that, but naturally you obviously see the short form or long form video content about that as well, because that's how just people take in their messaging now. That's how people engage, and that's how we learn now. So video plays a massive part in what we do at Lincoln United.
Brilliant.
George, if I can just jump in and ask Zack a question, just since you have been using video analysis and using video for your socials, what kind of numbers in terms of follower growth have you guys seen? Any increase in kind of supporter engagement? Have you got any figures of that kind?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So in terms of our total reach across all our social platforms, so we try to utilise the three main ones as best as we possibly can. And then we have one of our media officers solely focuses on TikTok pretty much, because that's a platform that needs constant. It needs probably a little bit more content going out on a regular basis, I would say, to try and to hit that algorithm right. But across our reach across all those platforms has gone up by 100%, if not 150, 200% on some platforms in terms of just the reach. The content engagement has gone up across all those platforms by 150% in this season. So I think across all of those platforms, our top 3 content from this season was all video-based content as well. I think the only exception to that in terms of the content that was most engaged with was, as you would naturally imagine, when we won the league and the graphic that went out to sort of share that news or to announce that. So as you can probably understand, I think that one did pretty well. So yeah, we've seen phenomenal growth. I mean, our followers have gone up by thousands. I think it's gone up by 1,100 on Twitter or X as it's called now alone. I think Facebook is pretty close to that. Instagram has certainly seen a big spike, but we grew our TikTok from nothing from this year. So the club didn't have TikTok when we first came in, and we're now at about 1,500 followers, which may not sound like a massive amount to start with, but to think that that's from nothing in about a year, it's certainly seen good growth.
Amazing.
I think that's great. And again, Zack, is obviously interesting. I know Lincoln United have multiple volunteers. They've got other camera equipment. But again, I think there's enormous amounts that can even be achieved just with the VO. And again, that's something that, again, I think we know and we're seeing increasingly the ability to just clip certain things up, download them and upload them. And again, is that something that you do at Lincoln United, like sort of match highlights? That's something that works well?
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, we're not reinventing the wheel at Lincoln United. We're certainly not doing anything that's not been really done before. We're maybe doing things that aren't being done at our level, but we are basically, like I say, we were trying to deliver EFL standard content, so we had to do hours and hours and hours of research of what works for those clubs in the EFL and Premier League and what doesn't. I mean, all of us at Lincoln United are volunteers. There is not a single one of us who is paid, whether it be for expenses or anything. We all do it purely because we want to give back and because we enjoy it and we have a passion for football. So the way we use our VO is pretty simple, if I'm honest with you. So the match highlights, obviously, we'll take out all the clips that are automatically obviously generated for us anyway, so that saves us a massive amount of time. Clip those all together, make sure the sponsor branding on there, and make sure it's well edited and professionally put together. We'll share that across all our platforms, make sure the sponsors are tagged in so they can then share it as well. So naturally, once you get all that involved, they do quite well every week. Magic moment of the match is one moment from the game, so you can almost take that out of your match highlights package if you want, really. So anything that we use the VO for is not, like I say, it's not groundbreaking, it's not reinventing the wheel, it's not even particularly, it's probably the easier part of the role, to be honest with you. It's just putting in the half an hour, however long it takes to pull it all together, and then you've got 5-6 pieces of content that you can share across between one game to the next, really. So it's a massive asset for us. I mean, if we didn't have our VO, then we'd certainly be trying to think of a lot of other ways to really capture those magic moments and those pieces of, for us this year, pieces of history.
No, fantastic. And I think, again, hopefully that's something that I guess just sort of demonstrates different ways to utilise it. I know we chatted to Calum recently just then about how it helps on the pitch, but equally off the pitch. I think that really sort of helps people understand, I guess, the different ways and elements that it can really sort of, I guess, interact with the football club. And I'd like to think that's something that can be done throughout. So again, even if it's a youth team, if it's a community team, if it's someone who doesn't have volunteers, again, a coach, a manager can do that, a player can do that themselves, and sort of really take that social media sort of presence on themselves as a project. And hopefully the video is a great way of sort of, I guess, facilitating that. I think, yeah, just to move the conversation on slightly, again, Jake, I know we got a question aimed at Calum. Should we ask that now? Is that all right to ask now? Do you mind reading it out?
Yeah, sure. We've got a question from Adam Grinwood. Hi, Calum. For smaller clubs, it's quite an investment to commit to the video analysis stuff. How would you advocate the return on investment?
Yeah, good question, Adam. I think I'll be honest with you, the return on investment would be the use. I think, the highlight that even just got one camera, what you can do with that one camera is huge. I'll be really clear that we don't have like an army of analysts that go out and do it. It's the coaching staff that deliver to the players. So you don't necessarily need that investment. It's just as long as the game's getting recorded, and you can create a space where either the coaches can feed back to the players or the players can feed back to themselves and watch it. It's the use that's the return of investment. And then I guess the education of yourself or the club as you progress, and also the openness to develop would be how much more you can utilize it. So, the player one's the easy one because it's looking at games, it's looking at individuals that you might work with, but you might start looking at the club and supporting the coaches with it. Like I've said, that might be another tool and another pathway you go down. But ultimately, I think the biggest return on investment would be use. That's what you're going to get back is a really good product that you can use. And it can go across the board. If you have games on a Saturday, it can go on a Sunday. You can record training on a Monday, and then you've got the rest of the week to kind of break it all down and see what you got out of it. But yeah, that would be my advice. I think that's probably the best I could answer that.
Yeah, I think that's great.
We had another question, George, from Adam Hunter, aimed at Zack. Really like your position as a social media manager for football. As a budding A-levels media student, how do I get into the industry? Thanks.
I think for me it's just you've got to put yourself out there. I think a lot of it, certainly in the past people say you needed to go to university, get a degree, and you'd sort of be away from there. Whereas now that's not, it's not that isn't the case, but it's not always the straight in option anymore. The degree is almost there to sort of get you into an interview or anything like that. So what is going to set you apart is that real world experience, but that's what people want to see now. So 100% I will always absolutely advocate it. Certainly doing the role now is volunteering at a club and going to your local club, whether it be Lincoln United, it could be Bourne Town, it could be whoever it might be, saying, look, I want to have a career in in media, communications, PR, whatever, marketing. Have you got any roles within your media team that I can sort of help out with and get some experience with, and obviously help the club out as well. And even if that's just one season, whether it's 2 seasons, 3 seasons, however long that is, that's a massive help to that club. It helps you with your portfolio, your personal experience. You get to obviously meet people who might be able to help you get that door a little bit wider open as well. So yeah, I would massively advocate for going out there and just sort of getting that experience. Really, the worst that a club is going to say to you is, sorry, well, our media team's pretty full, or not on this occasion, but we, in a couple of months' time or 6 months' time, we might be looking for something. So I certainly know that if someone comes to me and says, oh, I'm looking for a job in media and marketing, the first thing I'll probably be thinking is, okay, so what experience have you got? What have you done to go out and in the real world and sort of get that flavour of it, get that experience and sort of develop your skills. Really, there's only so much you can sort of do from trying to learn on your laptop. Really, you've almost got to go out there and sort of experience it and throw yourself in, really, and like I say, build up that portfolio. That's certainly what I did and sort of still am doing, to be honest with you. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Awesome. That's all the questions we've got, George.
Fantastic. Great insight, both. I think hopefully that helps you guys in the chat box. Again, any follow-up questions, please feel free to ask, and we'll go through after this next block. Coming back to you, Calum, I think, again, there's quite probably one of the hardest jobs, I guess, as a coach and an analyst or someone who's sort of working in football, is delivering feedback, I think, to young players in particular. I'm sure more senior players are able to sort of take that feedback on. They're able to sort of understand criticism. So how do you think video plays a part in that? How is it a useful asset for you? Is it something that you utilise a lot? I think, just some insights into that would be great.
I think it definitely is across the board in different ways. I'll start rather than the younger ones, the older ones. But we just recently we had 2 players out with Zack at Lincoln. We had at the same time we had two other players at different clubs, so like 4 players across 3 different clubs, and obviously really difficult to sort of track them when they're out and doing their things. And one of the things which was a real benefit to us is that all those clubs had videos, so we got the footage back every weekend and could kind of watch back their games, see how they got on. But equally, it gave them a chance to bring us their footage as well and kind of break down where they felt their performances were and what they maybe did exceptionally well or struggled with, and what areas of the game they wanted to develop in. So that was a really big help for us, is the fact that we could sort of still get their footage even though they weren't with us. Granted, that might not be everybody's case, but for us, that was a real big benefit. As sort of we go down the academy, I think effective is really key, because like talking to young players or talking to players, if it comes always from us, they can switch off. It's not always the best way of it, or the most effective way, as titled. So we generally like to kind of get them involved and sort of get them interacting with us. So a lot of times it will be for them to bring their footage or bring their clips to us, and we can sort of then sit down and it's almost they're presenting to us, and we support them through questions, through challenge around what they're saying and what they're doing, and sort of seeing where they're going to go next. So I think it's a really great tool that for players to kind of self-reflect on games, on performance, and then the coach to kind of like close that circle off and kind of give them an action plan that can come off the back of that. But like I said, it can be an individual process. It could be a couple of players together in a unit. It might be a team process. There's a whole, people can be as creative as you like with the feedback. But I think, we tend to try and get players to feedback to us. But obviously, there's still times that we do sort of match analysis and sort of the team analysis to them to sort of help them out with that, or kind of linking the learnings of the week. So if we have a topic that we're doing in a week, we might find some best practice videos that we show them as like, this is what we're going to go after for this week, and have a look at that. And then once that week's done, we can sort of then go back and show where they might have had those moments, whether that's in training or in the game, that they've actually done that really well, or areas that we might need to look at if they're struggling with it. I think to answer, delivering effective feedback to young players is really about kind of being versatile, like I guess like the modern world. It's not one way that fits all. It's engaging them from us, engaging from them, making it really easy to do. But yes, it's a great tool.
Definitely. And I think you sort of touched on it there anyway, but like you mentioned, empowering players, again, it's making sure that they want to interact with it. And I think hopefully the nature of video and VO is that players can log on themselves, they can unpack their own performance. And again, they can be self-critical or the other side, but I think that's something that's really useful. And again, do you mind just sort of touching on that a little bit more? Like what would you advise a player do? Do you ask them to like identify 3 moments in the game that they've done a certain skill?
Yeah. I think a lot of times, be really honest, like players really enjoy watching themselves play, so they and then generally you'll find that like they're not, the team stuff's great, but they're not really watching the team stuff. They're watching themselves. They want to see what they're doing, and if it's a good thing or something that didn't quite go so well, they really enjoy watching themselves play. So I think when they highlight that, you kind of got to tie that in, or if you want to give them something to look for, like related to a topic or related to a maybe like an individual development plan that you might have for them that that they've got to go after, you might sort of tee that up that they can bring that to the table to find those moments in training or games where they've done it really well, or they haven't done it, but why did it not happen? What can I do to help you get through that? So is it is it like a physical thing that might need to talk about, or is it a technical thing that we can highlight? But you can kind of break down that moment and then kind of help them develop that way. And I guess that's what helps with coaching, doesn't it? That's the role of a coach. So yeah, it's really good.
Definitely. And as you say, I think video should always be a tool. So it's a tool used by coaches, but it will never ever replace it. So having people who are really active with it, interacting with it, getting it out when they can and sort of putting it in front of people is great. But really using it to sort of, I guess, support your own work and how you sort of go about your day-to-day business is really important. And that's hopefully applicable to coaches of all levels, whatever professional amateur game you play in. It's obviously really, really, really useful. Thank you, Callum. I think that's really interesting.
Of course.
And then again, guess back to you, Zach, if you don't mind, is there sort of, I guess, let's say 3 top tips that you would have for maybe a grassroots or a youth team, and they're trying to just grow their social media? What would you be advising to them as a top 3 tip?
I think the first one for me would probably be consistency. It's a very old cliche, isn't it? But consistency is key. And I think sort of creating, as part of that, creating a predictable sort of content rhythm. So whether it be, match day on a Tuesday, roughly what your sort of content plan or your rough messaging is going to be that day, whether it be things like Throwback Thursday or, a rough sort of plan that sort of builds audience expectation, but then you'll see that it sort of improves engagement over time as well. So, like for example, there's sort of a bit of a coherent decision with management and with us really, but you'll see some clubs at our level will announce sort of players over time. Now that might be because they don't know that those players are coming in within a short period, but we're in the unique position where we signed quite a few new players for the season all at once. So we had 6 players across the last week that we needed to announce, and we sort of analysed the data from our social media platforms as to when people are most engaged or when people are looking at our profiles and picked those times out on every day across that week and basically announced a player per day. People knew that it was probably coming after 2, but we made sure that we hit those teasers and hit that video based content that we used to announce them at those peak times really, but made sure we build up that audience expectation so that they knew what was coming at those peak times. I think that the next bit would be to use video to sort of show your culture really, show your culture at the club and ultimately show the personality of players, but also your management team, your volunteers, anyone at the club really. Because ultimately people buy from people, don't they? And not only are you trying to, it's a bit of an engagement piece. You obviously want to try and build an emotional connection with people, with your club really, with your players. But ultimately you want to get new people through the door as well. So you have to almost convince people and build that emotional attachment and relationship over time that makes people think the next time that they see you're at home, they're actually go, actually, I'm not doing anything this Saturday. I'll go watch Lincoln United because Lincoln City are away. That's ultimately what we're trying to do. We're trying to build that emotional connection with people, and you're not going to do that with one post on the very first day. That takes time, and it's a bit of a drip feeding sort of process, really. So, anything that you can do to create that emotional attachment to your players, and obviously people link quite closely to players, don't they? So we see a lot of our young players, massive fans of our captain, who thankfully now is staying. So, we're able to use Elliot and his unique personality and try and sort of show his cheeky side a little bit when it comes to video content, really. So things like that are sort of quick wins, really. And I would make sure, for me personally, celebrate the whole club, not just the players. We try to showcase our management team. We try as much as we possibly can to showcase our volunteers and what everyone does behind the scenes, because naturally when the success comes, it's always the players and the management team that sort of are in the spotlight, and quite rightly so, because they're the ones who have on the pitch delivered. But there's an army of people, certainly at our level, behind the scenes, who without them that doesn't happen. So we try and celebrate the whole club, and we try to use video content to do that, really. Obviously, utilising the VO stuff helps for on the field stuff, and 100% utilise that as much as you possibly can, but try and utilise that video content to celebrate the whole club as well. That would probably be my top 3.
No, I think it's great and really, really interesting. I think there's so much that I think people really enjoy knowing about and seeing off the pitch as well as on the pitch. I think that's an insight that's really interesting. And again, I think, do you use, so from a match highlight perspective, is that something that I guess you would integrate all through the levels? Is that something that you think is very applicable for all levels? Is it something that you think people could do easily? I guess from a relatable perspective, is that something that you think anyone could really do? Is it quite easy from your perspective?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I mean, even things like bench cam is a prime example, to be honest with you. So, albeit the management team aren't the ones that people are there to go watch and go see, and ultimately they're cheering on the players, not the management team. Whenever, and I can picture so many moments from this season, so like 95th minute winner against Wisbech, 2-2. We score a winner in the 95th minute to not only win the game and get 3 points, but to then go top of the table, which thankfully we then stayed at for the last 5 games. But that was obviously a massive moment in our season, and you could sort of tell throughout the game that moment might have been coming, and it was literally the last moment of the game that it did. But the scenes on the touchline were just unbelievable. Like they were running down the length of the touchline to go and celebrate with the lads. But thankfully we was able to capture that moment on VO, because not only can you see obviously everything that's going on, but you can then sort of move on the VO app to point the camera down below, basically. And it's only a very small area that it actually doesn't capture, so you can pretty much see everything. So we naturally clipped that up and utilised that, and that was probably one of the most viewed bits of content we had across the whole season. We used it in our in our season highlights video at the end of the year as well, which we showed at the end of season awards. And I think the video itself had a massive round of applause, because it was it just showed that raw emotion, really, and that's why we all love football, isn't it? That's why we get so invested, so emotionally attached to football. And you think about all the football teams that everyone will naturally support and follow. If you then think how you engage with your team online, 90% of the content that you're resharing, you're liking, you're commenting on, is probably video based content, showing moments like that and really getting you up for it and hitting you right there in the field. So it's massive for us.
Amazing. And again, I think it's one of those things where the goals are great, and as you mentioned, the automatically clip stuff, but there's probably so much unearthed content that people don't even realise they have on their cameras in their matches if they jump into interactive mode and sort of have a scan through the full pitch to sort of see the highlights and other bits. So really, really interesting insight, I think, from both of you guys. Thank you. Conscious of time, I think we'll jump into a Q&A. And again, any questions that you want to ask or haven't been able to ask or feel like haven't been asked by the discussion so far, please feel free to populate the chat box. Again, we won't be offended if there's nothing that comes up. Again, that's probably a sign that we've covered all the topics that we possibly needed to. But if any questions now, please chuck them in there, and we're happy to answer them. You can see
while we're waiting for anything to come in, I've actually got a question for Calum. So, obviously going off what you were discussing earlier. So let's obviously take like Boller, who obviously came from the academy to us on loan for the second half of the season. I should point out, he's an absolutely unbelievable player. He's superb. How would on a weekly basis, how would you then, obviously if he's leading that feedback, how would you then take what he's saying? Because it's obviously a different level of football, isn't it? It's almost a different game to a point in terms of the physicality. How would you then take what he's saying from that VO footage to then adapt that on a week-to-week basis, if you get what I mean?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I think like when he came to you guys, he probably, if you think about the first 2 or 3 games, he was struggling just with the adapting to not that your pitch is a bad pitch, but just a different surface, like a different way of playing, a different challenge with the opposition, like how he hasn't got the freedom that he had in academy football as much. And obviously the pressure as well, there's more pressure, especially with how you guys are doing, which is brilliant. So he would, a lot of times he would bring that in on the also we would watch it, so we would have our own interpretation, and it basically just opened up really good conversations around where his frustrations were, so what he wants to do, what he potentially can't do, and how he needs to potentially adapt his game, and also some of the things that we encourage him to do in academy football, because it isn't as important the result. We want him to be himself. We want to develop him. So if he makes mistakes, it's not as big a deal. We want him to try it. But wherever you guys, it's like, middle of the pitch, we've got to be careful. Do you know what I mean? Because you get all the way there, it's going to be a problem. So in this moment, when you're here, you need to like really take care of it and think about what you're doing with it. And it kind of just helped him understand and develop, which is why we did what we did by putting him with you guys. That couldn't really have worked any better because of what it was. We kind of also it helped us because he's a ball player, so he needs a ball, and you guys help play football. So he was getting on the ball, it was allowing him to do what he wanted to do. We had previous experiences where he wasn't probably having that, so he doesn't shine up, and we could watch that and go, this is just not helping him because he needs the ball to be able to develop. So your environment was really good for us because we could see that how you tried to play, and he was going to get on the ball. And I think once he adjusted, and we kind of helped him with those conversations around, like you need to be aware of the pitch, and not talking about Lincoln's pitch, but the pitch you're going to go and play on. But you're going to have to adapt that really quick. The opposition, you're not necessarily going to be able to like power through. It might be a different technique you need to use, and to move the ball quicker in times. And I think once he kind of understood that, you could see his development really kick on because he could then utilize his abilities at the right times, but also adapt to what he needed to do in the moments with you guys. That kind of, I think he became really effective for that. Probably from 4 or 5 games in, for the rest of it, right, he then you saw probably what he was about.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, could you see from that VO analysis that you're probably doing with him on a week-to-week basis, then, from that first session or that first game he played to the last one he played, the difference in the player effectively?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And I think even like down to, I don't know if you sort of remember this, but there was a big issue with kind of like timings of challenges. I think and he was picking up. I think he picked up about 3 or 4 yellow cards in a row. Yeah. And you're like, okay, like what's happening in this moment as well? This is something we've got to talk about. And I think those moments as well just help and support his development. It might not always be about football. It might be other little areas that we're picking up on. It might be positioning. It might be a social side to it as well. And also I think sometimes we came and watched, so we came and watched the games live. And I think when we're picking up stuff, we can also bring that to the table in those meetings as well. So it's like, I know this happened in the game because I watched it, but I need to watch it back to justify it and then give it to him. So, it's like that helped with me when we're watching it live and we're seeing him and like, okay, he needs to think about his positioning here, or actually there's better position to go to take the ball up in this moment because of what the opposition are doing. And it's kind of those are the kind of the ways that we used it probably to support him when he's with you.
Awesome. Cheers, Calum.
Yeah, no worries.
Great insights again. We haven't had any questions in the chat box, so I think we're happy to sort of call it there. Again, I think thanks everyone for joining the session, obviously live. And again, a huge thanks to both Calum and Zack for their insights. I think hopefully that's shed some light on, I guess, how video and VO can help both on the pitch and off the pitch, but also giving you some insights from the highest level professional game, but also into the sort of steps and throughout. And hopefully that gives you guys and equips you guys to sort of approach your own football and use video to the best of your own abilities. Yeah, huge thanks everyone for joining. And yeah, we'll catch you in the next video. Cheers.
Thanks all.